Hello y'all and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a video that I didn't even really think I have to do, but due to a lot of mix-up and confusion in comments, I don't really have a choice. I'm going to do a video about lock types. Now before I really talk about the lock types, I want to just give a quick explanation on how a knife handle is designed. So in some cases you have knife handles that are all made from one material. Normally that would be aluminum, titanium, or some type of hard metal. But in a lot of cases, especially when you go into FRN, G10, or other types of plastic, you will have a liner. So what I'm going to show you guys is this one. This is the Ganzo G724. Really nice knife. I think this was my first Ganzo I ever got. So as you guys can see here, you have plastic on the outside. This is FRN, I believe, or glass filled nylon. I don't remember what the actual material is. So you have that on the outside, and you have metallic stabilizing layers, which are called liners. You also have a middle piece here that's called a back spacer. Normally that would be made from the same material the handles are made of. Now, in some cases, instead of a visible liner, for example, in this Cold Steel Voyager medium, okay, as you guys can see, there is no visible liners to the knife. This is a backlock of sorts. We'll talk about that in a minute. There is liners in here, but they're hidden under the layers of this is glass filled nylon. So the Cold Steel have a name for it. It's basically a plastic composite. So you have a hidden liner, which is great because it doesn't look, and it gives you a lot of stability. It also can keep the knife, in theory, thinner because it's not an extra layer. It's an extra layer that's inside another layer. Now that that's said, let's discuss locks. So the first knife we're going to talk about is the liner lock. That is this knife here. I'm going to use the Artisan Orthodox. And as you guys can see, what that is the liner is cut in the middle, and it falls down in the way to hold the blade so it won't close. The way to close it is you push it out of the way and fold the knife. So as you guys can see, this is the most common locking type you would find, especially on made in China knives. I'm guessing it's the easiest to manufacture. The liner has a part that goes down and holds the blade opened. The next one I'm going to talk about is the back lock. The back lock technically is the back of the knife has a piece here that holds the blade closed. Now if you look carefully, you would see there's a bar that goes into a divot in the blade. Here I made a drawing. What we have here is, you see the blue bar is the locking mechanism that goes into a divot that's cut into the blade and holds it in place. So to show you guys that in a knife, this by the way is the Brother 1507. If you guys see really carefully, if you look at the end of the blade, when it opens, there's a little piece of metal that comes out of its way and then locks in. When you push the button, you pivot that metal out of the way and you can fold it. Lockbacks come in many forms. You have this one, which is actually a back lock. You have a mid lock, which works the exact same way. I have it here on the Doiser Hunter folding knife from K-Bar. Works the exact same way. See, a little piece of metal goes up and then you can fold the blade. You also have from Cold Steel the Triad lock, which some people may agree, some people disagree. It's technically a back lock where the pressure is not falling onto the lock, it's falling onto a bar. That's a whole different setup. But as you guys can see, works the exact same way. You push in and it folds. This, by the way, is the Cold Steel Tough Light, one of my favorite knives to carry. Another knife which is very similar to the liner lock is the compression lock. That is found on Spyderco knives. This is the PM2. Well, this is a clone of the PM2. I just sold my real PM2 because I don't really, personally I don't like it. Works just like a liner lock. You have a piece here you push out of the way. But unlike a liner lock, when you put force forwards on the blade, with the liner lock you're putting force on the lock. With a compression lock, the force is off of the lock, so it is a little bit stronger. You do have a little more force when you're cutting against, but because of the build of the compression lock, it's a much stronger lock than your average liner lock. So that is this is a fake Spyderco. That is the compression lock. The next lock is very similar to the liner lock. It is the frame lock. So frame lock is, instead of having a liner, you have the side of the blade, the frame has the cutout in it, and you have to move the frame. You see the frame sinks a little bit in. You have to move the frame out of the way to close the knife. Frame locks split to a lot of different groups. You have this one, which is a frame lock where they have a stopping plate, or some of them have stopping discs, so you can't, push your liner too far out of the way when you close the blade. This, by the way, is a Gerber flat iron. I have a review on it on my page. Might want to check that one out. You have ones that come without any. This is the, I don't even remember what, it's a Kershaw R.J. Martin design, right? Yeah, R.J. Martin design. I don't remember the exact model. This one does not have any stopping pin, though the way I have it set up is the, pocket clip. When you hold it becomes a stop pin, but you can, in theory, push it really far out of the way. The other thing you have, which you find mainly on softer material knives or on very expensive knives, which they do to lower the cost or to keep the lock better, is, for example, on this Kershaw Natrix, which is made of copper. As you guys can see, there's an insert. It's still a frame lock. It's not a liner because it doesn't go all the way. It's just for this part where it's locked. Where it's because copper is very soft, will bend easy, so you have a stronger lock there. It's also frame lock. This one doesn't have a stop. This one has a little cut in it. I'm thinking it's to lower weight. I don't know. Also, a really nice knife. So where are we? Right. Next is slip joint knives. Now, slip joint is the ones that are normally legal in most countries. Technically, these are not locking blades. Don't hold me to the law. Check your local laws before you decide to carry these. Slip joints are knives that don't have a lock. That means you can open them and close them without any, without using any mechanism, and you do not have anything holding the blade open. The blade can just close. In this one's case, this is a, I believe the UKPK, the Spyderco UKPK, that a friend of mine, Oren Yakovi, made a custom blade, and I bought it off of him because, well, this is an awesome little knife, and it's legal where I live, so I can carry it. Really nice. So this is your this is a slip joint. You have a lot of different types in the slip joint world. You have ones, for example, the classic Victorinox knives, the Swiss Army knives. This one is the, what is this one called? I don't remember the model names off by heart, but this one does have a little bit of stiffness. There is a spring holding the blade closed, but it's not locking, just holding it in place. So there's a little bit more protection, and it can open and close very easily. So that is for that. You have here another example. This is a multi-blade. This is from Elkridge. It's really nice looking knife. You have two knives. They're both slip joints. Some of the knives have a 90-degree stop, which means there's a bearing in there that will hold the knife at about 90 degrees. Some a little more, some a little less. The other type of non-locking slip joint, I consider it a slip joint, I don't know if it actually is this knife. For example, this is the Senran-Mu 9055. I have a review on it in my channel. This one, as you guys can see, doesn't really have a spring holding in place. It's held by pressure from bearings. So this is a bearing lock knife, ball bearings, holding it in place. Really good knife. It does need some force to close it, so it's a little stronger than your average cheap slip joints, but you could get slip joints that are really hard to fold. So that covers slip joints. Sorry. The next knife is manual knives or collar knives. Collar knives are basically your, what are they, the opinels, where they have a twisting collar that you, well, this one is a little stiff, where you twist it, and then there's a actual block that you put in place. That's why I call it a manual. There's a lot of different, some you have a bar that you have to push into place. Opinel are the classic example. They're cheap, they're good. Well, I don't like them, but they're cheap knives that you can turn into place, and then there's a piece of metal that's holding it. To close it, you have to move the metal out of the way and fold the blade. You have some opinels are easier to, here, let me get one that's a little easier to use. For example, here, this one is the opinel number 8. So you guys can see it's a very, well, it's much looser of a blade. That one has been treated and worked through loss, so it could be, the wood is a little wet. But here you have a manual lock, which means it's a locking mechanism that you have to put in place. Some manual locks, for example, if I remember, there is a, I don't remember the company, there's ones where you have like a bar they have to push into place to keep it locked, otherwise it's just a folding knife. Another type of locking mechanism that I don't have really is a friction folder. So friction folder, let's do a quick drawing of how it works. So with the friction folder, you have the blade, which has a long protrusion coming out, that when you close it into the handle, your hand holds the blade in place. So the pressure from your hand is the actual lock, but there is no manual locking system on the knife. Next one I want to talk about is the axis lock. Now this is probably my favorite fidget lock because it's a bar that holds a knife in place. That with these, you have these, there you go, on either side you have this thing where when you pull it down, it releases the blade. You have a bar that's holding in place that you manually move out of the way, but it won't fold without you, well, pulling it down, and it's normally held up. The bar holds the lock up in place with a spring. This is mainly found on Benchmade knives. A lot of Chinese knives companies did it, and now once the patent expired, you have almost every company in the market making a version of this lock, but they all have a different name for it. So you have the XS from SOG, you have many companies have different names for it. Ganzo call it the G-Lock. It's basically the same operation, but with different names. The last locking mechanism I want to talk about is a button lock. So you have that mainly on automatic knives, but not only. I only have it on a auto, so this is a button that when you push it, normally it will release the blade. But when you want to close the blade, you still have to push it and then fold it. Otherwise, the blade stays locked. That is a button lock. The other knife is a fixed blade. Fixed blades are very simple. So here we have the cold steel spike. They don't lock, they don't fold. They're basically a nice piece of metal in your hand that will never fold. This is your most secure, safe lock on the market. A non-folding knife. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave a like, share, comment. Tell me what's your favorite locking mechanism. And see you all on another day.